That's what we love to hear from Dimash right there, baby. Give me that high B flat on an open E. That is when Dimash absolutely smashes it.
You ready?
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Peter Barber, professional opera singer and music producer. And today we're back with Dimash and Placido Domingo singing the duet Au fond du temple saint from the Pearl Fishers, opera by Bizet. I've gotten a lot of requests for this one, and I'm just gonna put a disclosure out there, a warning, a trigger warning, whatever you guys want. So up to this point, I've really been critiquing, analyzing Dimash as an all-around singer, and I think genuinely he is one of the best, most talented singers in the world. This piece is, of course, from an opera, right? So this has a different kind of lens that I'll be looking through to talk about his vocal technique. I have heard that he was sick before this, or recently before this, or that he had very short time to prepare, which is all too common in the opera world. Someone's like, hey, come do this concert tomorrow, and you're like, okay, get on a plane, go do it. So all those things I'll have in the back of my mind. Placido, one of the great tenors of all time. He's of course way past his prime though. I heard him sing, now he's singing baritone rep. He's actually singing the baritone part of this duet, which I have also sung, which is hilarious that we've sung the same the same repertoire as a bass and a tenor. But so Placido's voice has moved down a lot as he's gotten older. I have heard Placido perform live as a baritone. Still a ton of size in the voice. I mean, he's got a cannon, but yeah, he's decades past his prime. That's how it works, right? So yeah, I'm interested to see how this goes. I will be commenting a little differently than I normally do. Just want to get that out there, but let's go ahead and get into it. This is a duet I've done many times and that I'm very familiar with. Placido is still a tenor, but he sings baritone rep now. That is quite clear. A legendary tenor, one of the best of all time, like truly. Okay, so Dimash, like he's got a wonderful voice, right? He really has a wonderful voice. Even when he's singing strict opera, you're still like, yeah, that's just a beautiful voice. It's really easy to listen to. The French pronunciation is not perfect, of course. There's some vowels and some consonants, like he pronounced the T at the end of saint. And I think that temple was more like a tin. It was more like an E instead of an en, temple. These are like, I'm just being pedantic at this point, right? I'm just being super picky and nuanced. But so there's a few issues with the French pronunciation. Let's go back and talk about his voice though. I mean, he doesn't sound sick, first of all. Someone said he had the flu for this. I don't think he has the flu for this. His voice doesn't sound clogged or anything like that. So something where what he just did there would be separated from someone who's really studying full on the bel canto singing technique is you want every single pitch to have vibrato. So all the short notes you want to be spinning just like the long notes. And for Dimash, a lot of what he does in his music when he's performing is he'll sing the shorter notes straight tone, and then he'll bust into this huge, absolutely brilliant vibrato on the long notes, and he can do that. Like he has really good breath support, incredible vocal control, vocal agility. When he wants to use vibrato, he can. But getting vibrato on all those tiny little short notes is another aim and another level of development in that bel canto singing technique that takes a long, even if you're just studying opera, usually takes people a very long time to get there, and very few even very few master it at all. I mean, only the really great opera singers truly can sing with very consistent vibrato no matter the length of the note. It's a very difficult thing to do. So that's one thing technique-wise I would flag here, is all his short notes are straight-toned and all his longer notes have nice vibrato on them. Fondu, there's no N on the end of that in French. Dimash kind of says fondu. It's just fondu, fondu. Like, listen to that vibrato. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Like, he's got such a nice, consistent sine wave-like vibrato when he allows it into his voice. What he is doing well is he's not getting hung up on the consonants, which I like. So he's kind of minimizing the consonants to keep a legato line. This is another thing where, like, at a certain point of development in operatic technique, you can have both very clear consonants and still really maintain that vocal line. Right now, Dimash is kind of taking the pedal off the consonants a little bit to allow his voice to really come and keep spinning. Yeah, so just some vowels there, you know, vowel differences between French pronunciation, what he's doing. But again, this I heard he got asked to do this like a day or two before. And I don't know if he just learned it in a day. That would be absolutely horrifying to have to learn this. It's like a 6-minute, well, then maybe they shortened it. It's a long duet, and there's a decent amount of French, and it's not easy. There are difficult parts of this piece. So having to do this really last minute when opera is only one of your many skills, it's not the only thing you do. You haven't, performed these roles before, for example, absolutely horrifying. And yes, I am apparently going to be talking a lot during this video. So straddle up. I don't know how long this is going to take. But I'm not going to, I'm not breaking down every single little detail. It would literally take hours and hours, but I'll probably talk a lot. So here we go. So he pretty much just doesn't even sing that une fa pare. He just kind of eliminates the F. It's very light. It's very light. So that's what he's doing, kind of like getting away from the consonants to just keep that voice flowing. Right here. But like Dimash's voice, I mean, he's much younger, right? And his voice sounds cleaner and healthier than Placido's, which makes sense. Placido, he must be in his 80s at this point. I mean, he's really, really getting up there. And Dimash is like, in getting close to prime for like a tenor voice type. So like, Dimash's voice sounds nicer than Placido's here. I'm just going to say that. And Placido is also kind of singing straight tone on the short notes as well. And this is, if you go back and listen to his old recording singing like Bohème or something like that, you won't hear that. It'll all be spinning. But as the voice gets older, you just lose control. The musculature loses control. And he's such a legend. He's had as big of a career as you can have as an opera singer and beyond. I have immense respect for him and his career. And it's not insulting to point out that he is past his prime. That's just the way it is. That's how the voice works. That's how the body works. It's a little breathy, the vocal folds aren't quite coming together as well as they normally do, so maybe he is getting over a cold or something. I didn't hear it at first, but it's possible because Dimash notoriously has very, very good vocal fold closure. Like, he produces a very efficient sound, but that is generally normal in the upper range, whether it's upper chest range or especially his soprano range. It's like really those vocal folds are shutting real tight. When it's lower and middle, in his middle, it usually is a little more breathy. So that could be. It's just weird for me hearing him in the context of a true opera song, because usually it's like this big cinematic piece with orchestra and electronics and microphones. This is obviously amplified as well, but for whatever space they're in, it's probably a very big space. Anyway, it sounds a little breathier than I'm used to hearing him. So he's doing a very classic thing that a lot of young singers do with language and emphasizing the final syllable instead of the penultimate syllable, which is always how it is, not always, but most of the time in Italian, and most of the time in French as well. You have, I don't know what the word is, but it sounds like it said prosternea, or something like that. There's all these what's called schwas on the end of the French words. So that's two vowels. The second one is really meant to be shorter and softer and is meant to kind of fall off the end of the word. That's how French people would speak it fluently, and it's not always written well for that. The French music's not always written. I mean, sometimes a composer will put a big high note on an ending schwa, and you're like, how the hell am I supposed to be true to the language and also sing this big high note? It makes absolutely no sense. This one is actually written fine. The way that Bizet wrote these lines, he allows you to sing that first vowel and then get off that schwa, and Dimash is kind of doing the opposite, where he's singing the emphasized vowel shorter and then leaning into that schwa, which is supposed to be the short one. Prosternea. I wonder what that word means. I wonder if this would... Prostrada? No, why is it in Spanish? That's not helpful. Anyway, I won't worry about it right now. I do like his approach to this section a lot, actually. He's not blasting away. He's keeping it intimate, which is really how you want to start this piece, because there is a big climax coming later. So I really like his approach to it. Hearing him sing opera in his own context before, sometimes I hear a little too much darkening of the voice, a little too much of the tongue blocking. He's got a pretty good balance here. I don't hear him really overdoing it. The tongue's a little back to add a little darkness, but not to a crazy amount. So tuba, no S on the end of that word, tuba. He comes a little bit off the voice and the breath support there when he wants to make this line a little more intimate. So there's a way to do that. There's a way to create the intimate sound and create less volume while maintaining a quality of sound that's going to carry to the back of a hall. Peter Mattei is probably the world's most famous Mozartian baritone right now, and he does this really well. Even when he's singing really softly and intimately, you can hear him at the back of the Metropolitan Opera, which is the biggest house in the world. So there's a way to do it. It sounds like Dimash pulls off the voice, pulls off the breath support just a little too much to accomplish that intimacy, but overall pretty good. I love the sound and the vibrato on tuba. That's really nice. Dimash does so exceptionally well is the way he gets over that second passaggio there. You can tell when, because it's all chest voice for male opera singers, aside from countertenors, pretty much. So, chest register. And when he gets up into that second passage, you hear the resonance shift to go up higher in his head. And Dimash, I don't know how much he's worked on it, surely some, does it so well. You just feel the resonance without shifting his mouth very much or anything like that. You just feel the resonance pop up to the place it's supposed to be as he ascends in this line. You would hear it on the highest part of this line here. Right there on that an octave higher than me. Listen to the note before and then that note. You can tell the place of resonance has shifted slightly. Like that's very this way. It's very kind of out, and then it goes, then it goes like higher in his head voice. It goes, not head voice, head resonance. Really nice. So there's another example right at the end here where he pulls off, he'd be in trouble without the microphones, is basically what I'm saying. He pulls off the voice a little too much. It makes it a little too breathy, where in an operatic setting, it probably would not carry very well. Just the last couple words of that phrase. If Domingo's looking down, he's probably getting prompted. He's probably reading lyrics. Otherwise, I don't know character-wise why he'd be looking down at the floor unless he's staring at someone in the front row. I mean, guys, like, I don't know how much I want to critique Placido because, like I said, I mean, he's just older. He's much older now. He's way past his vocal prime. A lot of the things I'm hearing vocally are like, it's just what he can do nowadays. And I have so much respect for him as a singer. It feels weird critiquing him for being an old guy. Like, that just feels and cheap. So I don't know how much I want to comment on, but yeah, his voice just isn't what it used to be. Like, what's that line in Troy? I think Odysseus says it. It's not hateful to say a dead man is dead or something. Like, it's not hateful to say an old man is old. He is aged. He's had such an incredible. Oh God, clearly I'm tongue-tied. Putting my foot in my mouth here. I'll critique it some. I don't know what words he's saying. That's pretty unclear. Au vision. Now that's cool. So, la vous, you see how closed his mouth is on la vous. Normally you expect like, ooh, but he's like, la vous, which I think, again, even if he's old, he knows his voice really, really well. He knows what his voice can do now. He knows what his voice can't do. That's why he's singing baritone repertoire now. He knows that the high tenor repertoire is no longer in his capability. But it's really cool to see an opera singer that intentionally chooses a very different vowel shape, because there's always intention behind it. It's maximizing the sound efficiency basically, and he does that on vous here. It's just like his mouth is just barely open, and I think what that actually does is it can create a line of higher harmonic content. A really closed vowel can create a nice, really high buzz in the sound, which can actually carry quite well. So that could be what he's going for there. It is a beautiful duet. I mean, the beautiful thing about a duet is when voices blend, you don't hear nearly as much nuance within each voice as when you're singing solo. So it makes critiquing the individual voices very different. But let's see what we can do. I mean, first of all, they sound great, right? This all the stuff I'm saying. These are still two wonderful voices. Dimash, one of the greatest singers alive, and Placido, one of the greatest opera singers in history, right? So everything I'm saying, guys, this is just, you guys get it. You guys get it. I don't need to explain myself. The rhythms that they're taking are pretty different, and obviously they didn't have much rehearsal time for this. If this is a last minute thing, so the rhythms they're taking, they're not totally lined up as far as the words go, but their voices do sound really nice together. Dimash takes about half the breaths that Placido does. This is when Dimash, something he does extremely well is he's really efficient with his voice, and he can sustain these crazy long phrases. And something that tends to go with old age is the ability to get that vocal fold closure and your breath support too, your whole cardio system. So Placido's taking a lot of breaths, and Dimash is carrying over when Placido's taking those breaths about every other one. So every other one they line up, but in between that, that's kind of how it's going. Yeah, there's a couple of vowels going up and coming down that Dimash his voice really shines on. You really hear, and that's when Dimash gets into his wheelhouse, is getting up into the high chest range, high tenor chest range, and then high soprano head voice, which we're obviously not going to hear during this piece. I think it goes up to a B flat for the tenor, and I think the baritone part goes up to E flat or something like that. Watch how Dimash is shaping that wee. He's rounding his lips to get a nice, instead of it gets a nice warmer, rounder tone. Then that's even native French speakers will say, even if it doesn't quite sound like a French E or U or whatever, rounding the lips is a really good. I mean, sorry. If you're doing an Italian E, like a bright Italian E, even Italian coaches will say rounding the lips to give it that warmth and stuff. Warmth and darkness is a good move. This is different from a French U, where the lips are already rounded. See, they're just not, their words are just not lined up properly. I guess they're both looking at, I think the conductor's like to their left, so they're not watching maybe they're watching a monitor of the conductor. That could be what they're looking at. Domingo sounded like he didn't really know the words in that first verse. So maybe there's a prompter as well, but maybe they're looking at a monitor of the conductor, since the conductor's, I think, back into their left, so they can't watch him. I don't know, though. I wish I could see from their perspective. So this is a great example of that bel canto technique I was talking about earlier. Dimash goes, pas genou, or whatever the words are. Straight tone, straight tone, straight tone, straight tone, straight tone, and then on the long notes he allows. Whereas if you were singing, ideally you'd be vibrating on the notes all the way up that scale and all the way back down, even though those notes are shorter. There. That's a really, really well sung high note from Dimash, and I want to point that out because of all the critique I'm doing. That is beautiful right there. That is where his voice shines. Just great vocal that's up to that B flat I was just talking about. Great vocal efficiency. Sounds so easy for him. That's just wonderful. That is just excellent. Listen to this. And you can hear how much buzz and cut is in his sound. It's a lot more than what's coming out of Placido. Like I mentioned earlier, the voice ages, it gets harder to get that good vocal fold closure. So just listen to how efficient and how much squealo is in Dimash's voice. That vocal fold efficiency is just wonderful. And Placido, yeah, just not quite as efficient with the voice as he once was. He does not sound like he has the flu. He does not sound sick at all at this point. So I don't know where that story originated, but no, when he's singing well, it sounds just like Dimash has always sounded. And now he sounds more comfortable, right? Second verse, he's kind of settled in. He's like, all right, now we're comfy up here. So he's singing a little better now at the start of the second verse. I still would like to hear vibrato on all those short notes, right? He's still very much straight toning the short notes and vibratoing on the long notes. I would like to hear it throughout all of them, but he's clearly a little bit more relaxed now. Nice ooh, nice ah, nice passage. All good diction there. On the passage, right? That last vowel really should be short, and it should not be longer than the previous vowel, the emphasized vowel. So that's still one more thing. If they had weeks to coach this, I'm sure that Dimash would have had a really tough French diction coach, Placido too, probably, to really whip that French into shape. Again, I don't know the whole story. I just know this is a relatively last-minute concert, so I'm guessing he did not get much coaching on his French. And I know he did study opera back in the day, and he probably got French diction coaching then. But, I mean, he's been, a freaking superstar performing all over the world, not in French, for the last decade, essentially. So French is probably a little rusty. I just want to flag though. That's a nice phrase. Let me get the words here. Elle s'ouvra passage. Can't quite tell, but it's good. There's a nice line to it. The ooh is a really nice ooh. The ah is a really nice ah. It's good. This is good. Nice phrase from Dimash. The perfect amount of s on passage, right? You don't want to be passage, but you don't want passage. You gotta give that s a little bit of love, and you can actually use that s to keep the line if it's with intention. Passage, right? And it's just a really nice phrase. And I know I'm repeating this one little phrase a lot, but I'm giving credit where credit's due, y'all. That was nice from Placido. I like the intimacy there. I like the approach to that singing. I like the diction more than what I was hearing earlier. What was I gonna say? Can't remember. Oh yeah, Placido, just very much a tenor. Like the second he opens his mouth, you're like, tenor. Yeah. Look at that. He had some nice intention there with that last son visage. Son visage. That was very nice how he ended that phrase. Gorgeous. Nice amount of breathiness, right? Intimacy in the sound. It wouldn't carry very well in a normal operatic setting. This is not an operatic setting. This is a concert setting, guys, just to be clear. So everything, there'd be no microphones. Obviously, they'd be in full costume. The orchestra would be below them, the conductor in front of them. So a concert performance is very different from an opera performance, even if the music is the same. Just to flag that. Cherche, I think is the word there. Non regard. I'm saying cherche instead of cherche. I just like, but all the critique aside, because I am being strict. I mean, I'm critiquing it like these are two professional opera singers, which in this moment they are. I mean, Dimash could be a superstar tenor in opera. There's no question in my mind that he could be a Placido level tenor in the opera world specifically. It would just take polishing and diction coaching and stuff like that, but he has every tool in his toolkit to be an absolutely world-class tenor opera singer. So I want to say that. I think it's important to mention. Okay, so I believe they are skipping a big kind of more speech-like section. It's called recit or recitativo in opera, which is a much more complicated part of the music than this just beautiful melodic duet. So given their lack of time for preparation, that's probably a very smart move to cut that section because it is complicated and treacherous and requires a lot of rehearsal. So it's worth mentioning. All right, this is at a competition. I guess they're guest performing, right, at a competition. They do have different words sometimes. So sometimes, I said their voices weren't lining up. Sometimes that is because they are singing different parts, but sometimes they are singing the same words with the same rhythms, and they are not lining up because of that. So I just wanted to point out it's not all because they're not lining up. Partially is because they are singing different text about half the time. I'm saying sitel. I think it's setel. Setel instead of sitel. Sitel. I'm looking up the lyrics. Oui, c'est elle, c'est la déesse est fidèle à ma promesse. What are they saying? Et fidèle à ma promesse, comme un frère, je veux te chérir. I think they're just singing the wrong words. Now we're back. Yeah, they're just singing the wrong text here. I was like, c'est elle, that comes earlier. They're supposed to be singing fidèle, fidèle, and they're saying citelle. I don't know what word that is, but it's not fidèle. I was so confused about the vowel. Okay, we're back. Mason and I can figure out how much of that we want to cut. I was going back and forth between the lyrics and this section for like 2 minutes. So these are judges for professional opera singers, right? So they're like, hey, it is, for people who've been listening to opera for a while, it is kind of difficult to hear Placido because, again, I can't stress this enough. Like, absolutely one of the best tenors of all time. Just an amazing singer. Amazing singer. So it's hard to hear him singing when it's just not even close to what it was. You know, that's tough to hear. And then Dimash, one of the greatest vocalists in the world, but if you're judging him purely on opera, like Dimash will not be singing opera as well as the tenors in this competition. If it's a bunch of like late 20s, 30-year-old young professional tenors, he won't be singing opera as well as them. And I'm really not trying to be harsh. You guys know how much I respect Dimash. It's just a different thing to only sing opera, to pursue opera for your one genre. There's certain polishing and refining of the technique. And so these opera judges are probably like, you know, they're hearing all these like some of the best young opera singers in the world in this competition. And then they hear Placido, where it's hard to listen because he's past his prime and he was once so good. And you hear Dimash, who's a superstar, one of the greatest voices in the world. But just if you're judging on an operatic critique, he's not going to stack up quite as well as these other, you know, young world-class opera singers. So the judges are in an interesting position sitting there watching. That's what we love to hear from Dimash right there, baby. Give me that high B flat on an open eh. That is when Dimash absolutely smashes it. They were much more lined up on the text of that duet that time. Their timing for the text delivery was much better on this final line of this chorus. Chorus. It's pop music. Let's go. I was like, is there no one here? I guess they're all behind the judges, so the judges get a nice close seat. That's cool. Yeah, this last section is it's like the first kind of military part of the song. These two guys, I think the background is kind of that they like both love this woman or something, and then they resolve that, you know, they're just going to be boys and they're going to be brothers forever instead of worrying about fighting over this woman, something like that. And so the end of this is just this big bro moment where they're like, yeah, bro. Hug each other, fist bump. And it's funny because the music very, very quickly changes to like from this sweeping melody to like ba 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 ba, like military and like macho. And so usually at the end it's like the two guys looking at each other and then, you know, maybe hugging each other at the end of the piece. It's great. I mean, this duet is done on, you know, every gala, every scenes program, every recital where there's a tenor. I mean, where there's a tenor and baritone. We're doing it on a thing coming up with Arizona Opera. So I'm not singing it. Fortunately, we have an actual baritone, a tenor to do it. But it's done all the time, everywhere. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful piece. Let me go back and so you guys can hear this switch. Melody. So Placido doesn't know the words. He just doesn't know the words to this section. He's getting prompted. He's looking at words somewhere. I mean, you can just watch him, and he's taking breaths. It's not a good look. It's not a look for our guy. It's not a look for our guy in this section. But a big, beautiful high B flat from Dimash, and we love that. And they sound phenomenal on that last note together. They're both on the E flat 4. They both sound phenomenal on that. All right. This was long. And could have been much, much longer, believe it or not. But this was a long one. And there's a lot of heavy critique. And that's why I gave the disclaimer at the beginning that I would be looking at this in a different lens than I usually look at Dimash's performance. And the only other opera singing I've analyzed is Sam Raimi, Kurt Maw, and Ferruccio Furlaneto. I'll leave that here. When they were at their absolute prime and 3 of the greatest basses who ever lived. So my critique there was mostly just drooling over how good they are. So a lot of critique in this one. And I will probably release it. I think it's good to shed light in a different way. But I hope you guys learned a lot about kind of what you have to be thinking about as an opera singer or an opera coach or a casting director for operas. There's a lot of detail and nuance that really gets glossed over in pop culture. All the things I was saying about Dimash in this video, I would also be saying about Andrea Bocelli. Dimash is actually probably a better singer than Andrea Bocelli. I don't remember how Bocelli sounded when he was much younger, but even when I heard him in middle-aged, yeah, there's quite frankly a lot of refining and polishing that needs to happen in that voice. I think Dimash has as much talent as anyone I've ever heard to be an opera singer. If he polished up, he'd be unstoppable. That said, I think it would be a waste of his vocal talent to just sing opera. I really do. I think what he's doing now is exactly what he should be doing. He can reach a much wider audience. He can do all the things his voice is so amazing at. Opera would really pigeonhole him. So I think he's doing exactly what he should be. And one final shout out to Placido. I mean, absolute legend, a GOAT, one of the greatest tenors of all time. He's just past his prime. I've said it 100 times in this video, but that's what we're up against. Guys, consider joining my Patreon if you enjoyed this analysis, this heavily critiqued breakdown. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and I hope you guys enjoyed despite the critique, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.